Florida Senate. I'm used to that.
I'm sure you are.
Okay, President, we're ready to begin.
Okay, welcome today to Senate Chat. That's the new name for our press availability, and for those watching the internet, this is your opportunity to text in or other means to ask questions about what we're doing here in the legislature. We have a treat today, have Senator Hatch with us. So if there's some questions you have for Senator Hatch, please bring those up. We'll go right to media questions. Well, before I do that, though, today was a little unusual. We had some debate, some extensive debate on compulsory education and smoking in public places amendments. I wish we had the sponsors here, but if you have some questions, please bring those up. Questions from the media.
So, Senator Hatch, you said that you feel like the Senate will, I guess, wait until next year to confirm the Supreme Court justice. How do you square that with the fact that in the past that's not been the practice of the Senate, that there have been several justices who have been confirmed in election years? What's different this time than in
the past? It has been the rule. I might say that, yes, Kennedy was selected, but that was after two failed candidates before in a huge fight. And everybody was behind him as a consensus candidate. Charles Evans Hughes, he was the Chief Justice at the time, if I recall it correctly, and he decided to run for president. But that was back in 1916, so it's been better than 80 years since anybody's even tried this. And frankly, we're in one of the most contentious presidential elections in history. Supreme Court nomination confirmation hearings are always contentious, or not always, but have been ever since the Democrats shot down Miguel Estrada, and ever since they shot down Robert Bork, who was one of the greatest legal minds in this country. And there's been I think both sides realize how important these issues are. So the fairest way to handle this is to put it off till next year. Whoever is the president will have the opportunity of doing it. It could be a Democrat, it could be a Republican. And get it out of the political world that is right now completely consumed with this presidential election.
Wasn't Bork nomination in an election year?
No. Okay. Not that I recall.
So are you saying regardless...
At least that wasn't an issue in that election.
Regardless of the candidate chosen, you've already decided that you will vote no?
Vote no against whom?
Against whoever is...
If there is a candidate.
No, I haven't decided that. I never decide that until the end. They'll come and visit with me, whoever the nominees are, and I will treat them with great respect. But I think the process will follow like this. McConnell, who is the majority leader of the Senate, has said that we're going to put this off so that it's fair to everybody. And therefore it'll be put off. I don't think there'll be somebody who's going to come into the office at that point.
Can the Senate afford to wait? The longest they've gone to confirm someone is about 120 days. It's 266 days to the election from where we sit right now. Can the Senate afford to wait that long? Because, you've essentially got a 4-4 tie in a number of decisions on the court.
Well, sure we can. The longest has been better than 2 years in history. Look, the court will function very well with 8 justices. On the really contentious issues before the court, they'll put those off until this new justice is appointed. They'll be able, the vast majority of Supreme Court cases are decided by majority vote. And the vast majority of cases are decided in a bipartisan way. It's when you get into the tough, really difficult issues that you find the divisions in the court. So this is nothing new. This is something that the court can live with. It will still function, and the country's not going to be any worse off. The country will be worse off if we don't have a process that is basically as apolitical as we can make it, which it would not be this year, and a really top quality person is nominated by whoever is president. But both sides will have an equal right to be in that position to appoint whoever they think will be the best nominee for the United States Supreme Court.
Should the president use his recess appointment authority to fill the vacancy if the Senate's not?
Well, first of all, he can't right now because we're keeping the Senate in session.
Yeah.
And I think we would continue to do that. And secondly, he would be a numbskull to do that. I mean, he really would. That would cause even more bitterness and partisanship than ever before. The goal here is to have whoever is president appoint the very best person they possibly can, who will go through hopefully 100 to zip, or at least overwhelmingly. That's the best approach. In recent years, because of a whole raft of issues, abortion, First Amendment rights and freedoms that are being eroded by some on the other side, and will be eroded if we don't watch it. The Second Amendment rights that we in Utah value very highly, and most other states do as well, including liberal states dominated by Democrats. I mean, I could go right on through. Religious liberty is one of the most stressful concerns that I have, because we're in danger of losing the First Amendment and having that modified to the point where it doesn't mean anything. But as long as I'm there, I'm not going to let that happen. But let me tell you, there are those on the other side who will let that happen. So these are important issues. They're issues that are certainly going to come before the court. So we want people on the court who are going to be fair, honest jurists who will do what's in the best interest of the country, not what's in the best interest of their particular party. So this is really important, and I think we'd be absolute idiots to bring up a Supreme Court justice that naturally is going to be a contentious nomination in the middle of one of the most contentious presidential elections in history. Let me tell you, that's not the way to do things.
Thank you, Senator Hatch. Other questions?
Wayne's not going to invite me anymore.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Senator.
I've got a question. No one else has a question. This is about, it's not for Senator Hatch, but kind of leadership position. Why do you think that there isn't really an appetite to bring up some liquor legislation like Senator Backus's that will tilt around the Zion curtain? It was kicked to interim, but why do you think there's not really an appetite to address that?
Well, it's those are issues that we sent to committee, and those are the results of those committees to have some further study on it. I think that passing something on the Zion's curtains probably pretty much passed at this point in the session, and interim is a good time to look and see what other alternatives there might be, and how we could address that in a more deliberative process. That's usually what interim is about.
I was in that committee this morning. This was Senator Maine, who ran a couple of the alcohol bills that was before that committee this morning. I think really the idea is that we kind of look at a number of these bills together during the interim, so we have a chance to see how one may affect another, and the effect that would have on all of our alcohol policy that we have in place at this point, what it might do to a number of effects that it may have on not only restaurants but people and how we do things in the state. So my feeling was in committee this morning that we voted to take a closer look at all of those things as they relate to one another.
Senator Maine?
And I'd like to speak to that. Senator Backus has one bill that deals with one thing, and it's kind of sexy, and people like it, and they get all emotional. That's fine. I appreciate that. But the bills that I have will change the function and the structure of the DABC. And I've been on that journey for like 10 months. So I wanted to have it in a serious discussion about it, not have it on the floor, and have it go to some animal that it's not. That's why I chose to get it. And then in interim, I have control of the conversation. I can bring those supporters, and I think we can really have some change. They're emotional, as they should be, but there needs to be a fundamental change in the way we handle that retail store. That's why, by choice, I put it on interim. I can't speak for my colleague, but it needs to be changed and not caught up with the emotion that it's a liquor bill.
Great question, thank you. Any other questions? Kirsten, anybody from our viewers?
Yes, we have a couple tweet questions today. One of them asks, both of you actually, do you feel that SB 73 could lead to less of an opioid problem if a person could only have one of them? Meaning either opioids or cannabis, not both.
Well, that'd be a good question because we don't have the FDA and scientists have not been able to go to the extent of study on marijuana that they have with opioids, and so it'd be very difficult to answer that question with any authority because first of all, you've got to get marijuana list off the Schedule 1, Class 1 schedule, so that proper investigation, scientific work can be done. So then you could do a comparison at that point. But at this point, I don't think there's been anything. There's a lot of people that say there's a lot of science out there, but it's never gone through the process like all the other pain relievers have through the FDA, and that's the process that's missing for marijuana, in my opinion. Good question. Thank you for sending it in.
Okay, there's one more. Does Utah have any active ISIS FBI investigations, and is Hill Air Force Base or NASA, or the NSA, a target?
You're
Well.
talking about ISIS?
Yeah, they're wondering if anything in Utah is a target of ISIS. I don't know of any, but maybe Senator Hatch might.
Well, nobody really knows. We do know that there have been some people coming into our country that we're watching very carefully. And look, if they're followers of ISIS, and if they're leaders of ISIS, you can count on the worst, whatever it is. So we have to be vigilant as citizens, as people who run matters in this state. And of course, I don't think Utah is a place where they really want to come. We are vigilant, and we don't put up with that type of stuff. And we have pretty good law enforcement in the state as well. Plus, you have federal law enforcement here that is quite good. So, but that doesn't mean that there aren't evil people out there planning to try and attack various military installations, and other facilities that are very important to our state and to our country.
There's no. Oh,
If I could get one more. Probably discussed this last week, but the backers of the medical marijuana movement, backers of Senator Madsen's bill in particular, say they're going to file an initiative petition this week because they don't think the legislature is going to respond. And so if you'd have any thoughts about that, they feel frustrated that this body hasn't acted on that particular issue, and they're going to try to put it on the ballot this year.
well, that's in the Constitution, and they're allowed to do that. So we haven't had the vote yet in the Senate on SB 73 or if it's 89. So we're hoping that we might get to those this week, and we might. And then I guess if those fell, then that would be prerogative of those who want a law that can't get through the legislature.
May I speak to that?
Yes, go
We're
ahead.
talking about the referendum getting signatures to put.
Initiative.
Yes, okay. We visited Women in Government, we visited Colorado, and we saw the fields, and we saw the dispensaries, we saw everything. And I brought one thing back that keeps chiming in my head. The legislators from Colorado said what happened is they had the referendum, and then they had no laws in place for that. So they rather than having regiment and laws and direction in place, and then the referendum happened. No, that's not right. Tell me again.
It's initiative.
That's it. I said it 3 times right and 3 times wrong. And so they were collywhackers. So what happened, everything that happened, they passed a law knee-jerk for that. And that was the conclusion I had from that, is that it was backwards. And so some of the laws they were passing maybe weren't the right ones, but they needed something in place at that time. So I took that back from Colorado. I hope we don't go there, because it was counterproductive. And they even had laws that they had to back up and make another law because it wasn't correct for what they did. So I hope we don't go there.
You said you were in the committee this morning.
The DABC one you're talking about?
Never mind. I'm incorrect. I was thinking it was the marijuana.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for joining us for Senate Chat, and thanks to Senator Hatch for joining us today.
It's been a
It's a
privilege.
pleasure to have you here, and we'll look forward to another robust discussion tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Wayne.